Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blue Heron Hill in the kitchen today, and I have butternut squash that has been down in my pantry, and I'm not eating it fast enough. These are gorgeous. I also have this is a Canadian crookneck. Now I found that the crooknecks are not lasting as long. You can see there's a little bit of, I don't know, buckling or something in the skin here. So I am going to process these, and today I'm going to can a butternut squash soup. So, and let me show you the ingredients. So along with butternut squash, this is going to have to be peeled and diced. I also have celery, carrots, potatoes, and onions. Potatoes and onions and the squash are all from my garden. The celery is from the store, and so are the carrots. I didn't have any fresh carrots. I don't have any fresh celery. It's all been either in my, it's either been dehydrated or frozen, as in the case of the celery. And the carrots are all canned already. So I just decided I'd use some store-bought carrots and celery, and we're gonna go from there. So I have my work cut out for me. These all have to be diced up into little cubes of about a ½ inch. So I'm gonna get going on that. I don't think I need all of this, but we're going to see how much gives me. I think I need probably about 5 pounds. So maybe a little bit more. The recipe says it will make 7 quarts. I've got my pressure canner on the stove, and when we get closer, that's going to heat up. I want to make 7 quarts because that's what my pressure canner will hold. And I have plenty of produce to do that. I'm going to be just nudging the numbers just a little bit. I'm in the midst of chopping up my veggies. I did my potatoes in 1/2 inch cubes, and now I moved on to my squash. This is what the crookneck squash looks like. Isn't that a beautiful, beautiful color? And this is just the neck part of it. You get so much more flesh from a crookneck than a butternut. So it might be well worth your while to try it if you haven't already tried it. And here's the cavity, so it stays at the bulbous end and does not go up the neck. And so I'm going to take that out. But here's the butternut, and let me just slice into it. And you can see that it's not quite as orange as the crookneck. So if you really like a lot of color in your soups, try the Canadian crookneck squash. And it's just as delicious as the butternut. I can't even say that I can tell a real difference between the two. So back to chopping. All right, I've diced up just the potatoes and the squash, and I'm going to put this, I'm going to cover it with water. May need a little, no, that's good. Cover it with water, bring it to a boil. I'm going to boil it for 2 minutes, and then take it off and drain it, and then I'm going to add the other chopped vegetables to it, which I haven't chopped yet. So as this is coming to the boil, I'm still chopping some more. Whew, look at the steam coming off. I drained it and put it into one of my biggest bowls that I had. And then I'm going to mix it with my carrots and celery and onion mixture here. The vegetables are all pretty soft, the squash and the potatoes. But when you make soup out of this, you're going to blend these up anyway, so they don't have to be pieces of squash and potatoes. And there we go. That's pretty good. Oops, there's some at the bottom. There we are. Okay. Now at this point in time, you can season this. You could put your seasoning in your jars. I'm not going to do that because there may be some little tweaks I want to do to each one of these individual jars before I serve it. But I am going to put a little salt in each jar, maybe at about a half a teaspoon. There we go. Unfortunately, I only have 3 wide mouth jars. I have everything else is jarred up in my pantry. So we're going to, the recipe called for boiling water. Now I have a lot of stock or broth, and I'm going to use some of that. And that's heating on the stove right now. Looks like I could probably make more than 7. So I may need to do another canner load of this. I'm going to kind of, not necessarily pack it down, but I want to make a little bit more room in each one of these jars for a little bit more of my medley here. Okay, here is my broth. Now I think I put in 1 quart of broth and about 1.5 quarts of water. So we'll see if this is enough. If not, if it's not enough to use in all 7 of these jars, I'll just top this with some boiling water. Important to debubble. These are chunks in here, and the air bubbles can get trapped between the vegetables. Okay, important to debubble. These are chunks in here, and the air bubbles can get trapped between the vegetables. And then you need to maintain your 1-inch headspace, so I will have to fill a few of these with some more liquid. I always use vinegar. To wipe my rims. Since I don't really have any fatty products in here or sticky sugary products, you could just wipe it with water. Fingertip tight. canner has been heating up because these jars are hot, and this is hot packed, and we're going to get them in the canner on the stove. My jars are in my pressure canner. The lid is locked. I am turned the heat up, and I'm waiting for a steady stream of steam to come out of this vent here. And when it does, I will wait for 10 minutes, and then I'll put on my regulator and then wait till the pressure builds to 10 for my elevation. These will get processed for 90 minutes, not any less than that. And then we'll wait for turn your heat off, wait for the pressure to come down before you open that lid. And actually when you do, I just crack it for probably about 10 or 15 minutes so the ambient air and the hot air in there can kind of mingle and bring things to a more normal temperature, so there's no thermal shock involved. I have a dilemma. What do I do with this? I think it would only fit in about 2 quarts, and I don't want to run my pressure canner again for just 2 quarts. So what I think I'm going to do is make this up into soup for dinner tonight. And to beef it up a little bit, maybe I'm going to put some ground sausage in this. Doesn't that look good? Now stay tuned, and I am going to make this into a soup. These are just the ingredients right now. I'm sure you can eat it just like this right out of the jar, but I'm going to make it into a creamy soup. So I'm going to take the remainder of my squash potatoes, celery, carrots, onions, and instead of canning this up, I am going to make a soup out of it. Here we go. I just put it into my soup pot, and I crushed up some garlic. Yeah, a whole bunch of dried garlic. Now, I didn't drain it. When you have it in your jar, you can drain it if you want. I did not drain mine, and will not, because I like the broth that I had put in it. Let's see, so we have a little bit of garlic. I have some Anaheim peppers, which I'm gonna put a few of those in there. Just to add a little heat. What else do I have? I have some cumin, which give a nice little southwestern flair to it. I'm gonna make it a little creamy. So I had a little bit of cream left over, and then I just added some milk to make it about a cup. I think if you took out one of these quarts, you'd probably use maybe not quite a cup. Let's see how that. I don't think it's quite soupy enough, so I have a quart of broth. I'm not going to put the whole quart in. Just a little to start. Now I'm going to put this on the stove and start heating it. Nice and creamy. can eat the soup this way, really chunky if you like, but for creamier, smoother, I'm going to take my immersion blender I'm going to leave a little bit of a chunk in here because it's just the way I kind of like my soup. So now if this is too thick for you, you can always add a little bit more broth to thin it down just a wee bit. When you have your quart jars, over here, I would dump all of the liquid and the veggies into the pot and heat it that way. If you don't have an immersion blender, use just a regular blender, and that should give you a nice creamy consistency. So there we go. I'm going to give it a little taste. Definitely needs a little bit of salt. So I'm going to put my herb salt in here. I also put a little bit of thyme in here too. Could need just a little bit more, but taste as you go. In order to make this a more hearty meal, I browned up some sausage, and we will just incorporate that into the soup. And this is going to make a fine dinner on this cold end of January day. So thanks for following along with me on this video. If you do try this, all you have to do is take that jar, put it into a pan and heat it up. Add a little bit more broth or something if you want it a little bit thicker. Don't have to drain this at all, I think. And if you use the chicken broth, that adds an extra depth of flavor to it. So, delicious. So, until the next time that we can go cooking in the kitchen. Thanks. Bye.